Okay, thank you, Femi. Okay, so I'll just quickly ask this question. I want to understand what the difference is between real estate investments in Nigeria versus real estate investments in the US. I'm directing that question to you, Femi, given your extensive background in both markets.
Okay, so one of the, I guess, stark differences that is visible to me as a person is, access to capital for real estate, be it development, be it real estate purchase. The access to capital is one of the major differences, and I think as far as kind of the kind of uh, market size that we see here in the US would have not been possible if there was no access to capital to pretty much everyone who's creditworthy. In Nigeria, I wouldn't say that access to capital is widely distributed evenly amongst Nigerians, but that's one of the biggest differences that I see.
Interesting. Lydia, do you want to contribute to that as well?
Okay. So in addition to what Femi said, yeah, capital is actually, I would say the US, they're more of as an advantage when it comes to capital. Because if you're talking about Nigeria now, most people don't have access to that because we don't operate that system. So the only thing most real estate companies have done so far is to draft out a payment plan for you, a long-term payment plan that allows you to spread your payments and then access to mortgage. And then you having the access to mortgage, most times it's a little bit tedious trying to access your NHF and your NHS. So what he said is actually profound. Yeah.
Okay. So still on the topic about mortgage, right? How widely recognized and appreciated is it in the Nigerian market? Lydia.
Okay, so basically, or I would say currently, we have most NHS schemes that, and we also have more some banks that allow you to operate your mortgage and all that. But then the requirements they would be needing from you, most persons don't have it, just a few that actually have access to the mortgage option. So that's why, like I said earlier, the payment plan is what we try to make very easy for those that actually want to invest. So spreading your payments for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years is actually what most real estate companies are currently doing because the mortgage option is a little bit tedious here. And most people, I would say most people that actually get mortgage are those that actually work in good companies. And when I say good companies, I believe you guys understand when I talk about good companies like MTN, Airtel, and the rest of it. But those little startup companies, they don't really give out mortgage options like that. And even with those big multinationals, it still takes a lot of time, lots of effort, and lots of requirements to get the mortgage option. So I would say or I would say for the real estate company, a payment plan is actually a good option. It gives you a peace of mind.
I see. And I guess it helps to one have people who understand what mortgage is. It helps to have people who appreciate the value of payment plans as an option. But I also think that people probably struggle with, at least with real estate in Nigeria. If you're in the US, for example, people probably struggle with finding reliable partners to work with, right? So I'd like to understand from you, Lydia, how have you guys been able to navigate, getting people to understand the importance of real estate investment in Nigeria, wherever you are in the world? Have you guys been able to navigate that? How are you finding, or how are you helping your clients outside of the Nigerian borders to appreciate the importance of real estate investment in Nigeria?
Okay, so coming from that aspect, assessing real estate in Nigeria here from the US or from any part of the world, we know that most of the issues or most of the problems that people outside of Nigeria have is finding a reliable source or a reliable real estate company to actually deal with, or trusting someone to actually help them to sell a property. Because we've heard or had, I would say we've rather heard of how most persons are scammed by either their siblings or the person they trusted in actually helping them to get real estate. So what we do as a company and how we help you is, number one, you can get a lawyer. When you get a lawyer, you request for all the necessary documents from us, and we provide you with those documents. So now, talking about documents, when dealing with real estate, two things are actually very important: the location and then your documentation. If you if you do your research about our company properly, you see that we only deal with just two documents, and that's a C of O or a governor's consent. Aside those two, we don't deal with any other property. We don't deal with excisions. We don't do with, there's a name they call it, I think, excision in progress. We don't deal with all that. But if you check most real estate companies, they actually do. But we know the risk of dealing with all those ones. So we just stick to two documentations, and which are the, I would say, the first and the second documentation you'll be needing in getting any other property. Because from the C of O, you prepare a governor's consent. A C of O is prepared every 99 years, the way it's being done here in Nigeria. So if you're buying a property, we can't hand you over a C of O. Instead, what you will be getting is a governor's consent. So that's why I say when dealing with properties here in Nigeria, you have to get a lawyer. So when you get a lawyer, you get those documents from us, either a governor's consent or a C of O, and then we give you those documents, and then you can actually give it to your lawyer to go through it and then do his or her findings in Alausa, and then you see that, okay, the property you're actually dealing with is good. Or if you're someone that is actually vast when it comes to properties or laws here in Nigeria, and you request for the documents from us, obviously you know that what you're saying is actually good. So my advice to anybody who is wanting to invest in real estate here in Nigeria is either you get a lawyer, or better still, you request for the documents if you're vast or if you know more about property documentation, and then we provide you all that. Or if you have a trusted person, which is the last option, I would always advise. Because when it comes to real estate, you can't really trust people that much for the sake of your funds. So basically, I think that's what I have to say.
Okay, we will come back to, some of the things we need to know about real estate investments in Nigeria, but let's go over to let's come to you now, Femi. I think I want to understand, for anybody who is new to the US market, you don't have any knowledge whatsoever about real estate investments, you've never bought a property, but that's something you want to explore, right? What are the first sets of things people need to know with respect to real estate investments in the US?
Okay, so I think one of the first things is to figure out exactly what your purpose is. Sometimes when I speak to people talking about investing in the US, people might want to do like a straight up investment, which is a property where, they use, once in a while when they come to the US, some people want to buy property out here just so that, it can give them some sort of like rental income. So knowing what your purpose is going to be, I would say is the first step. The next step will then now be what areas, because the US is a vast place, right? So what state or what cities are you going to be interested in? I, for one, like to invest in cities where I know people that, have been in the market for quite a while, so they can at least point out, the good areas and the bad areas, to stay away from, and things of that nature, so that you don't buy property in an area that is not seeing a lot of activity as far as development and real estate investment is concerned. Then I guess the next step would then now to figure out what your funding mechanism is going to be. Are you trying to buy these properties straight up cash, or you're gonna look for a way to fund the purchase? And then after you figure out what your funding is, then you then now go to, okay, so what kind of properties am I going to be able to afford? So you start to look at price points, and then you start to study the market that you're trying to invest in to kind of see what properties are on the market, how long those properties are staying on the market. If you're investing, looking for some sort of like rental income, you start to look at what the average rent in the area is for different property sizes, which ones are harder to rent, which ones are easier to rent, and things of that nature. And also, I guess the demographic of the working class in that environment will, also give you some sort of like indication whether your property is going to be affordable and always rented or not. So those are some of, I would say, the initial fact-finding pointers that I would give to anybody looking to invest in the US, as far as I'm concerned.
And what are some of the misconceptions people have that you've seen about real estate investments in the US?
People think this thing called real estate out here is, a juggernaut that is hard to figure out, because there's so many parts to it. I can be throwing out, I would say, acronyms or different sectors of the real estate in the US that people can participate and make money. Some people wholesale, which is a different term for, selling contracts that you have, or rights that you have to buy any property. Some people make money off of that. Some people buy properties, fix them up, and put them back on the market for sale. Some people buy properties just to put a tenant in there so that they can earn some sort of like cash flow. Some people buy commercial real estate, which is another term for a building where you can have people rent offices or grocery stores or salons and all things of that nature for the most part. So it's quite a broad sector out here, but I think figuring out what your goals are in terms of like what you want to achieve as far as your real estate investment goals are concerned is going to determine what areas of real estate you're going to be focused on in the US.
Okay, interesting. So let's talk about some of the opportunities, right?
Yeah.
What are some of the opportunities you see in the markets that you think African migrants, for example, can capitalize on?
You mean African migrants in the US or? Okay.
In the US? In the US.
So one thing I've noticed in terms of Africans in general is that we don't pool our resources together. For the most part, people kind of exist in different silos across the U.S. And I would say we have a huge economic power if we can, kind of form like a syndication to take down some of these big real estate deals that I see. I think properly structuring some sort of like syndication vehicle to invest in, I would say, commercial real estate. And when I mean commercial real estate, it starts from a building that has 4 or 5 units and up. So it could be 20 units, it could be 50 units, it could be 100 units, right? So I think pulling our resources together as a community to invest in such properties is, I would say, is the biggest opportunity I see out here, at least as far as I'm concerned, since I've been here.
Okay, thank you for that. But before we move on to a different topic, Lydia, can you also speak to some of the opportunities you see for Nigerians in the US, and of course that you can see Nigerians in Nigeria are leveraging?
Okay, so I would start with residential properties. Okay, because most people just want to get a property for them to either stay in, or for them to either rent it, or for them to either put on Airbnb. But recently and most currently, what most people are actually doing now is more of like Airbnb for their residential property. So they can just decide, like Femi said, they get a block of apartments and then they put it out on Airbnb and then it gives them money because in a day they end up collecting about 100K to about 150K. So when you multiply that by the number of days they would be staying, you know how much you'll be getting as ROI either on a monthly basis or on a yearly basis.
Okay. So I have a question about for it's still for Nigerians in the US who are looking to invest in Nigeria. Some of the problems that they have, right? They can buy the properties, but management is a challenge. So what advice would you give to anyone who needs help navigating that?
Okay, so I would say refer to just like our friend said, doing your due diligence in looking at how you intend running the property, how long it's been in the market, the location, how fast you're looking at selling out that property. But then on the other hand, what you have to remember is when you buy a particular property, you don't expect it to stay for that long. So what we always advise is get a reputable company that has all the services, that has the renting services, the selling services, the building services. So that's why I said earlier on when I was giving a brief history about Landway is what we do. When you buy a property from us, three things are involved. We can either help you to rent it out, we can also still resell for you, and then we can also still build for you. So you don't have to worry about any of this. And then basically we also have like a management department that handles all of this, that handles each section. So for the renting part of it, we have a department that handles that. So you that you're buying, you don't need to worry about putting your property on rent because on a daily basis, we are getting clients as a real estate company, or not just as a reputable real estate company. On a daily basis, we are always getting clients who wants to sell, who wants to buy, who wants to rent. So it's more of an advantage to you when you're buying from us because we offer all the services. And then you have all the clients database to actually help you run your market.
Right. So for a typical rental property, how long do you think, or how long does it take to make back your money?
Okay, so it depends on what you're buying, number one. It depends on the location. So take for instance, some locations in Nigeria, they've actually reached their peak on ROI, that's their return on investment. And there are some areas in Nigeria wherein you buy today, in the next 4, 5, 6 months, you're getting 100% return on investment. So I'll give an example of Banana Island, and then I'll give an example of Lekki too. If you're buying a property in Banana Island, let's say for 300 million naira, there's a probability that you're selling that property for 301 million naira in a year time or in 6 months time. But then if you're buying a property from somewhere like Lekki too, you know that you're buying a property at 50 million and then give and take 6 months time, depending on the real estate company you buy, depending on how fast the real estate company is with development, you might be selling for 70 million. So you can calculate your profit, that's your ROI. So you're getting 10 million naira ROI buying a property in Lekki too, and then you're getting 1 million naira. How would I put it? 1 million naira ROI buying a property in Banana Island. So that's what I'm saying. Most locations have actually reached their peak on return on investment. So that's why when you're buying a property in Nigeria, you have to actually think of the location and then do your research and your findings.
Speaking of locations, what are the opportunities outside Lagos, if any?
Okay, so for Lagos, practically everybody in Nigeria wants to do real estate, should be so, because that's more like the new oil of the nation that people are actually coming into. Basically, everybody wants to do real estate. You can see some celebrities. I mean, I was going through my phone this evening. I just saw that AY actually just opened his own real estate company. Everybody wants to do real estate. everybody wants to do real estate. So for other parts of Nigeria or other parts outside Lagos, we have Abuja, we have Port Harcourt, depending on where you want to invest in. But also, you have, as an investor, you have to have it at the back of your mind that which area or which place will I get my ROI back quickly? Or which place will give me a greater return on investment? Most people that stay outside of Nigeria, they will be like, no, I want to invest in my village. I want to invest in my village. Yes, buying a property in your village is not a bad idea. But if you're looking as a business person or as an investor, if you're looking at getting a property that will give you good ROI along the line, you have to think of a quick location. You have to think of a place that has population, a place that has development, a place that has lots of infrastructure, good quality of people. So you have to put all those things together, all those things to make up the location.
Okay. Thank you for that. So I have a question about you. You said something around if I were to invest in real estate in Nigeria, I need to do my due diligence, I need to get my lawyer, I need to do all this documentation. What is the place of landway if I still need to get a lawyer?
Okay. So if you still need to get a lawyer, because most people, they will be like, I want to get a lawyer to feel more rest assured. There is trust, but then you have facts that should back up your trust. So in getting a lawyer, we can provide you a lawyer that can draft out whatever it is you want them to draft out for you, or whatever it is you want them to do for you. Them doing their due diligence in going as far as allowing us to check up a document for you and then giving you back the document, it actually makes a whole lot of sense. It's actually fact. It's not just something that is in the air, it's actually fact. So we can provide you with a lawyer whom you speak to over the phone. Then the lawyer becomes your own personal lawyer. So the lawyer is going to be in time, how would I use the word? Mediating between the client and with the company. So it now depends on your agreement or whatever it is you come up with a lawyer. So ours is just to provide your lawyer the documents, or better still, like I said earlier on, if you're someone that you're very vast with real estate documentation, when you look at the documents, you know that it's legit.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what are some of the misconceptions? I asked Femi this question, but I'd like to hear your thoughts on what, from your experience, what some of the misconceptions are about real estate investments in Nigeria.
So most of the misconceptions they have about real estate in Nigeria, or like people abroad, most of the misconceptions they have is, I can't invest in Nigeria. Nigeria is not a good place for me to invest. Their return on investment is poor. But not knowing that with the rate at which dollar is going and with the rate at which naira is going, it favors them more to actually invest now in the country. So I would say that's one of the misconceptions they have, that they don't want to invest in Nigeria. Nigeria is not a good place. There is insurgents, there is this. But no, that's why I said location is what matters in when you're buying a property or when you intend investing. Location matters. Take, for instance, Lagos. Anybody who invests in Lagos should know that definitely you'll be getting a good ROI, especially the Lekki to axis, which is, I would say, the new Lagos currently, the Lekki Ekpe Expressway. That's basically the new exit, the new Lagos. Because if you look at this, we have most infrastructures, most companies coming up in this axis. And there was a plan that the government has and then they've been carrying out. It actually makes a whole lot of sense to actually invest and buy here, because you know that along the line, you know what you're getting back as your ROI. So investing in Nigeria is not especially Lagos, like I said, it's not a problem. So that misconception should just, I would say, it should vanish.
Okay. So let's talk about, like, when is an ideal time to invest in real estate? Do you guys have, this is to you, Femi and Lydia, do you guys have insights on when is a good time to buy a property or invest in a property?
I think for me, I think there's a saying that says that the best time to buy real estate is 10 years ago or something along those lines. I can't really remember how it goes, but it was kind of like along those lines. So I wouldn't say there is you can time the market. I don't think anybody can time the market in terms of like when you want to buy real estate. So whenever you have your money ready and you've done your due diligence, like Lydia said, in terms of like what you want to invest in, you know, I think you can just shoot your shot. There's no time. There's no time to wait when it comes to real estate. So, I mean, real estate out here in the U.S., I know it goes in cycles. There'll be times where it's at the top, and there'll be times where um, it loses value due to economic reasons. But depending on your form of investment in terms of like why you got into it. For instance, let's say, for instance, you buy a property to rent out to tenants, for instance. If the value of your property drops, as long as you have a tenant in your property paying your mortgage and you see some level of cash flow after your mortgage and costs are covered, then you have no concern regarding what the value of the real estate is at that point in time because it goes in cycles. So today it might be down, tomorrow it might be at the top. So I think whenever you're ready, whenever you feel like you're financially ready to jump in, I think you should just go ahead.
Okay. To you, Femi, what are your thoughts on flipping properties, buying new properties or old properties? If I had some money today, where would you say I should channel that into?
You mean flipping?
Yeah, so I just want to know, like, what are your thoughts on that? Which is probably the most ideal or the most profitable, or help us unpack flipping, buying new properties and or
Okay,
buying old properties.
gotcha. So flipping basically, like you said, is buying a property that you've recognized that needs some uh, value add, and then you buy that property, you upgrade it. Say, for instance, the property was built in the 50s or 60s or 70s. You buy that kind of property and then you upgrade it to 2021 standards, like you might need to upgrade the kitchen, bathrooms, floors, or change the outlook of the property inside out, with the hope of reselling it for a higher value. Now, my thoughts, I mean, I've done quite a number of flips since I've been here, but my thoughts about it is if you're looking for something to flip cash, which is, say, for instance, I have $50,000 and I'm looking to grow that over time. Say I want to make that $50,000 turn into like 80 or 100 or 120 or 130 $1,000 at during a given time frame. Yes, flipping works. But if you're looking to do like long-term, investments for a cash from a cash flow point of view, I would say buying properties to hold them for long term is a far better strategy for a real estate investor, because I feel like flipping as it is a job in itself. So if you have, say, for instance, a 9 to 5, and you want to flip, if you don't have a partner who's already in the business and who's experienced, then it's gonna be like a full-time job, a second full-time job for you. So that's the way I view flipping, in my opinion. I mean, it's been getting a lot of attention recently, and I know that a lot of people are more interested in trying to make a quick buck. But if you're looking long term, I think buy and hold is a better strategy.
Okay. So now
And
let's
that's just my opinion.
okay.
Yeah.
So we have some questions from the audience. I
Sure.
will just I'll read some of them.
Mhm.
We have maybe about 20 minutes left for this session, so as many questions as we can take within that time. I will start with you, Lydia. There's a question about mortgage. Besides employment in notable companies in Nigeria, what are the other requirements to getting a mortgage? This is from Idris Busari.
Okay, so first of all, I believe Idris doesn't work in Nigeria, right? I will take it that he doesn't work in Nigeria, but
No,
then
I
if
don't.
he actually, okay, but then what you can actually do is we provide you a mortgage company, you give them a call, and they will tell you all the requirements, all that they will be needing from you. So first of all, part of what they will be needing from you, or mostly what they will be needing from you, are your bank statements and all that. So you have to sort all that with them, and then you discuss how you want to spread your payments for the next 15 years. Because the maximum a mortgage company would give you in Nigeria is 15 years. Okay, and I think that will be about 25% on what you're actually buying. So an additional 25%. So they will be giving you 15 million naira, and then you'll be coming up with the rest on, obviously on your own. So the only thing they're supporting you with is 15 million naira. But then I would not say I would not advise for a mortgage. It's okay to actually go for a mortgage, but then you have to consider along the line if you'll be able to keep up with the payments. Okay, if you know a payment plan is something you can actually do, I would advise that, okay, you go for a payment plan. But then if you still want to stick to the mortgage option, that's fine. But most of the documents we'll be needing from you, from us through you, are these documents I mentioned, the C of O or a governor's consent. So that's why I said getting the mortgage option or getting mortgage earlier when I started talking about mortgage, it's a little bit tedious. Nigerians, would I say Nigerians, their nature, they try to make it tedious for you. I would not say for the fact that they want to embezzle funds, because that's another aspect where funds obviously are going into in Nigeria. But then if you wish and you know you can actually go through all the waiting process for the mortgage, that's fine. We can provide you that. But for the documentations you'll be needing from us, you have all those documents. It's just on your own part if you will be able to fulfill what they'll be needing from you. And then if you like their terms and conditions.
Still
Can
on that.
Okay.
No, go ahead, Idris.
As a follow-up question though, like in America, you can spread it out over 15 to 30 years. For the installment, how long can you pay the installment? Because the ones I've seen are like, paid in between a year. They want you to pay for the whole house. And I don't know if there are other terms.
For the whole house within a year with mortgage?
No, the installment one. I mean,
okay,
with the companies.
Okay, so for that, for us, or what would I say for Landway, what we do is we spread our payments for 2 years. Maximum we can do is 3 years. And the reason the 3 years being, after the 2 years, there must be a communication between you and the company. The only time we actually add default charges to what you actually bought earlier is when we've not heard from you. There is no communication between you and the company. The property is just there. You're not making any further payment. Then we assume that, okay, this person is no longer interested in this property or whatever. It's either we refund your money back to you, or better still, we refunding back to you, we're deducting 30% less. But then, like I said, communication is what matters in property with us, with Landway. So that's why I said, what we have on record is 2 years. But then, if you're not able to meet up with the 2 years, that's fine. We can give you a couple of months. As long as you're communicating with us via email, the reason why you've not been able to meet up payments, you can understand that. So most real estate companies that tell you that they do 5 years, that's just tying your money down.
Got it.
Thank you, Lydia.
I think to add to Idris, I think there are two types of mortgages is what Lydia is trying to say.
Yeah.
So there's an in-house one, which is offered by Landway. And the traditional mortgage would have to go through like the traditional commercial banks, like maybe like a GT or Stanbic. And, you have to consider, you have to consider the interest rates, which is going to be outrageous to, something that you're used to in the US. I think in the US, you can get as low as 2.8 at this moment. In Nigeria, I'm talking in the 20s, about 23 to 25%.
25%.
Yeah, exactly. So that might not be viable for you if you're investing, in Nigeria and you're not making use of that property. So
Thanks,
Um,
Femi.
Thank you for that addition for me. I have one more question for you, Lydia. This is from Ayodeji Adeshola. The person says, considering the rapid growth of the Airbnb model in Nigeria, how has the risk factors, how have they been handled when it comes to security and lack of trust?
Okay, so for your Airbnb, like I said earlier on, I don't think probably it was at the beginning. We, like I said, we have a subsidiary called Rentity Pool. If you decide to either put it on a yearly rent or for short let or whatever it is you want to do, we can actually do that for you, and then we will be managing your property. So it's to his own advantage as well, because you buy from us, we handle for you, then we deliver to you. So that's why I said we have these three arms. We sell properties, we develop in the sense that we actually build, and then we also rent, irrespective of what it is we want to do.
Okay. Thank
sorry,
you.
before you move on, I think maybe Ayodeji should kind of like elaborate on what he meant by security. Like, is it like security of the investment or security in
Mm,
general, like of lives and property?
yeah, yeah. I meant security of the properties, the items in the in the property also. So yeah, security in general.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess if Landway is gonna be managing the property for you, it's probably gonna be on them. But if I were to be doing such a venture in Nigeria, I think having like some level of insurance, and I think there are a bunch of companies that provide insurance as well in Nigeria, to kind of like ensure what you have in the property, should things get damaged, or you have unruly guests that come in to damage your property, because that happens here, even here as well. People that run Airbnbs in the US too sometimes have guests that come in and just wreck the whole place. So
Okay, so in addition to what Femi just said, you can actually get an insurance, but then the way we sell our properties, we don't just sell properties the way most real estate companies sell, that we just see a piece of land somewhere and we just sell. No, what we do is we get a piece of property, it becomes a gated community. So if you check out or do your research about Landry, most of our properties are in estates, irrespective of if you're buying a house or if you're buying a land. And then if you choose to buy a land from us, because I believe that's part of where your security comes in. If you're buying a land from us, after you've made your payment, 50% initial deposit, we'll have to give you an allocation. And then what we expect of you is to do a perimeter fencing to keep your own part of the property clean. So the fact that it's in a gated community, it's in an estate that has all the recreational facilities, a gym, a swimming pool area, a restaurant in front, you don't have to worry about all that. As long as the documents we've given to you on that property is either a governor's consent or a C of O, you're good to go. Anything aside those two documents, like I said, it's not advisable to deal with it, because there is a probability that government will still come back to collect it. But when it's a C of O or it's a governor's consent, I don't think you should be worried about security.
Okay. Thank you. Femi, I have some questions for you. The first is, I moved to the US last year. Can I buy property?
I guess yes and no. Buying a property here, I would say, it's dependent on your status. I guess your immigration status. So I know if you do not have, I would say like legal status, you might not be able to. However, if you are investing as someone from outside the country, you might require a larger down payment. But if you do have a status, meaning let's say you have a green card or you have some sort of like an employment authorization, and you have a verifiable full-time job, you can buy property in the US. And it can be funded through the traditional means of funding where you don't have to put more than 5% down payment down for the property.
Okay. And then one last question. Does my money in Nigeria count towards money I can use to buy property in the US?
You mean as far as your investment, like things that you can show as, I would say part of what you own or what?
Yes.
Um, I'm not sure if that is going to be acceptable. I mean, it might different mortgage lenders, have different criteria. Um, at least for the properties I have bought, I have shown my stock portfolio as part of, what I'm bringing to the table as collateral. So, but those are US companies. They're not like Nigerian companies, or it's not monies in Nigeria. So I've not had to show that in the past. I mean, when you're trying to get a loan, I think you can ask from whoever the mortgage broker is, what your options are. I think that's the first thing. If you're trying to buy a property in the US, um, get with a mortgage broker, let them know what your status is, let them know what your income situation is, let them know what your work situation is as well. And then they're able to shop you around based on your profile to see what lenders might be willing, to take a chance on you. So that's how I will do it if I'm trying to buy a property here and I'm already here and I'm trying to see what I can get, because that's also going to inform you what price points you should be looking at as well in terms of like what you can buy.
Okay. So two people have their hands raised. I'll just pass the mic to each one of them. I'll start
Sure.
with Okweyemi.
Hi. So I just wanted to kind of contribute a bit to what Femi talked about. Femi is very correct. I think the best people that can provide you the answer is your lender or your realtor, which is like estate agent, right? But I just want to kind of dig a bit deeper around the fact that a lot of mortgage lenders or estate agents are not dealt with migrants, right? So in some cases, the answers they give you might be a bit misleading or outrightly false. I moved to the US 2 years ago, and I bought 2 houses in the US using Nigerian history, right? And also using proof of money made in Nigeria, and it's worked both times. But how did it work? First one was talking to the lender, the first lender saying, sorry, it's not possible. Talking to the second one, and then explaining from day one to the second that, hey, this is the status. This is how it's going to work. The money is legit, but this is where it's coming from, right? And they say, okay, let's see what we can do about it. And then they kept working it. It was quite stressful the first time. I had to get tax filing from Nigeria, even as far back as 2 or 3 years. I had to sign attestations, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, it worked. And even though it was stressful, it still took record time. Everything was done in like 17 days, right? Which is still record time, even for folks that have lived in the US for 20 years and even citizens, right? So that experience actually taught me a lot about how limited knowledge of people here can be around how things would work for a migrant. So what I just would want to advise, and addition to everything Femi has said, is you are special in that sense, since your situation is kind of unique and different, but make sure you push hard. Explain to the service provider what your situation is. If the first one says no, try the second one, try the third one, and you start saying how ways to start opening for you. And once they've done it for you once, they know that, yeah, they can do it. They learn new things on the journey as well. And at that point in time, it becomes very easy for you to do the next one and the next one and the next one, and for you to even also introduce other migrants like yourself to them, and you see things start getting better for everyone.
Yeah, thanks for that, okay. And just to add to that, in my own case, when I was buying a property, I went through a Nigerian mortgage broker in the US who understands, a migrant's story and their situation. So, which is why I said talking to a broker, explaining to the broker what your situation is, he will then now shop you around different lenders, to see who is willing to do the loan for you. So talking to multiple brokers might also help as well in that regard.
Um, thank you, Okwe. Thank you, Femi. I have Habib as well, so I'll just quickly unmute you. Habib, you can go.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me? Oh, sorry, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
So I have a question for Lydia. So I've been having this question on my mind for a while. Like most times when I see some houses in maybe Banana Island or Lekki, and I see the prices, they are almost the same as the houses here in the US. Like I don't know how can one actually make sure that you're not buying a property that the price is just inflated. Because in Nigeria now, the minimum wage is like about 30,000 naira, like $79. And we have houses that expensive back home here to Nigeria. And they look similar to the same house with the same price here in the US. So how do we make sure we're not buying a house that is just overinflated?
Okay, so like you said Lekki, Phase One, Banana Island. Those places they've been selling for a very long time. So I would say take for instance, I have a client who actually bought in Banana Island. I think in the 80s, she bought for 10 million naira. And then you can calculate from the 80s down to this time. If you can imagine a 10 million naira properties in the 80s, and currently, how much are they selling in Banana Island? You see for 300 million, you see, I think the least you will see for is 250 million, 200 million. And that's about an apartment or so. So if you're buying in such areas, like I said, you have to consider your ROI. You're buying for 300 million naira. If you're putting it on rent, when do you think you're going to be able to get back the money you use in buying the property or your ROI? Because if you're looking at, okay, you want to sell, you're selling within a year. The maximum you can add to that property is about 1 or 2 million naira, max 5 million naira. So you mean you're buying a property for 300 million naira and then in about 5 months' time, you're selling for 305 or for less. So that's why I said location is what actually counts. So then another instance is if you're looking at buying towards the Lekki axis, you're buying a property for 30 million naira, and then at the end of the day, or within a period of 5 months, 6 months, 1 year, you're selling for 60 million naira. So when you calculate the ROI on the one you're buying at Lekki Ekpe and then the one you're buying in Banana Island, which do you think you would go for? Because like I said, location too actually matters, infrastructure is actually matters, but then you have to look at your ROI. How soon are you getting your money back? I don't know if I've been able to answer your questions or if you want to ask more questions.
I think you answered, part of the question. Oh, still, because even you mentioned now someone bought a land in Banana Island for 10 million, right, in the 80s.
In the 80s, yes.
That's like almost $1 billion now, right?
And then I think what she, because I visited her, what she did was she did apartments. And then I think she's renting one for about, I think, 17 million naira or so. So you can imagine if she decides to sell, she might either sell for about 250 million or 300 million naira. That's if she decides to sell. Why? Because the period of time which she bought it has already, it's long, because you can't, if you calculate from the 80s to now, you can imagine how many years that property has stayed in the market or has been around. So that's why I said in some areas, they've gotten to their peak, their ROI has gotten to its peak, that even if anything wants to add at all in the property is 1 million naira, 5 million naira. And then there are some areas that properties are already adding up real fast, real fast, real fast.
Okay. Thank you. We're really nearing. I'm sure by the time I'm done speaking, we'll hit the 1 hour mark. But for anybody who wants to reach out to you, Lydia and Femi, how can they contact you?
For me, I can drop my email in the chat, and my phone number. Anybody can reach out to me, for further discussions or questions.
Okay.
Okay, so I can actually do the same as well. So I'll drop my email and then my phone number as well in the chat, and then you can just chat me up.
All right, cool. Thank you so much, guys. I think if you have any further questions, for everyone else here, please send an email as well to digital@moneyme.com, and we'll forward the questions to Femi or Lydia. Of course, you can also pick their phone numbers from the chat box as well. But thank you guys for spending time with us today. Please follow us on social media. We actually have groups where you can get information on opportunities, events like this, and other offers we have. I'm just going to quickly drop the links as well, so you can join these groups to learn more about the different offers that we have. Thank you for your time. Enjoy the rest of your evening. But I'll keep this open for a bit so people can quickly pick out the contact details of Femi and Lydia. Thank you, Femi and Lydia, for your time.
Sure.
Thank
Thanks,
you
everyone.
very much for having me.
All right. Bye-bye, everyone.